Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world today watching this video. Hey, listen, Dennis K here with Belize Islands Real Estate. And today I want to give my clients a little update on what's happening with the evaluations department because it's starting to affect a certain percentage of our sales and it's going to affect some of our sellers, some of our buyers. It's not something that we can't overcome, but right now it is resulting in some frustration both for myself as an agent, some of my sellers, and some of my buyers. So I just want to give you a little update on what's going on and what you can expect here in the future as you purchase your property, and especially if you purchase it with the intent to then sell it as an investment. So here's the deal, guys. When you buy a property in Belize, as you've seen, that property closing, I highly recommend that it go through a third party closing agent, like a lawyer. In this case, I use Belize Key Investments, Alberto Villanueva. I've done several interviews with him. He does about 95% of all the closings for Steph and I personally in the properties we buy, and about 99% of the properties that my clients purchase. So, as you know, working with him, his office is very thorough. They cross all their T's and dot all their I's. They collect all the due diligence on the sellers, on the buyers. They make sure that the titles are free and clear, able to be transferred. That's your first step, you might say, in buying a new property and getting title. Now, once Alberto and his team does their job and they consider a deal closed, they take all your information, all that due diligence, and they submit it to the lands department. The lands department would then review everything and issue a registry number. So once that registry number is issued, you are, for all intents and purposes, the legal owner of the property. So you purchase property, it could be a piece of land or a condo or a single family home, wherever it might be. Once that number is issued, you then are considered the rightful owner. However, from there, the first step in this process of now you actually getting title, it goes to the evaluations department. Now, what is the evaluations department? Well, this is the department that usually determines how much stamp tax you owe. Now, you might be asking, well, why would they determine how much stamp tax I owe? Isn't it based on the purchase price? Well, it is most of the time, but not always. Now, remember, in Belize, there is no MLS. The lands department, or the evaluations department in this instance, is dealing with closings coming in from all over the country, from Punta Gorda in the south to Corozal in the north to San Ignacio in the west, Ambergris Key, Key Caulker. And even when we look at a small island like Ambergris Key, you'll see that the prices of real estate are all over the map depending on where exactly on the island these properties are located. So for example, if you submit a property that you've purchased, like in the Palmyra Woods subdivision or the Grand Belize Estate subdivision, those lots typically are going for anywhere between say 30, 35, 40, 45,000. Main road lots a little bit more because they have high traffic. So the evaluations can take a look at that area and very quickly decide, okay, you know what, this person is paying the going rate for a lot in this area. So their stamp tax is easily able to be calculated, move this one through. However, where we're running into a little bit of an issue here is where people are buying property sometimes in these up and coming areas where the evaluations department is looking at saying, wait a minute, this person's only paying, say he's only paying 35,000 for this lot or 50,000 or 100,000, but based on this area, it's worth quite a bit more than that. And the reason evaluations is backlog right now is because sometimes the amount of sales is just so overwhelming that they're just having to take a little bit of time to determine, is this person paying market value? If they're not, that's fine. They're not going to force the person to pay more for the property, but they might evaluate the stamp tax at a little higher market. Now, so for example, here's a very practical way that this might happen. So let's say you purchase a lot for 100,000 US. Just use a round number, 100,000 US. Goes to the lands department. Your stamp tax is usually calculated as they take 100,000 US purchase price minus 10,000, and then they base your stamp tax on 90,000. So you either pay 5% or 8% depending on how you're taking title. So either 5% or 8% of 90,000 will be your stamp tax in most cases. However, the lands department could look at that and say, you know what? you're not quite paying market value, we're going to determine that based on what's going on out there and based on the volume of transactions they're getting for this area, they might bump up that evaluation a little bit. So they say, rather than having you pay stamp tax on 100,000, we think the property is actually worth 125. So we're going to base your stamp tax on 125 minus 10,000. So you're going to pay your taxes on, say, 115 rather than 90. Very, very small difference. Now, in all the years that I've been doing real estate in Belize, I've never ever seen the evaluation department come back with something much greater because again, usually, first of all, you're probably paying fair market value or maybe just under, maybe you got a really good deal. So in that case, you just have a very slight increase in your stamp tax. So what does all this mean? If you're just buying the property for yourself, in other words, Steph and I on island found a beachfront lot, we're buying the property, we're putting it in our name, the process or the time it would take to for that property to go through lands department, get evaluated, us to pay our stamp tax, and actually get physical title. Doesn't matter how long that takes because I'm keeping that property. But right now, some of you who have been buying multiple properties with the intent on selling that property to someone else, making that spread. So maybe you bought, for example, two lots side by side a year ago, or maybe 9 months ago, or 6 months ago, and your whole intent is I want to buy two side by side lots, but in 6 months, 9 months, I want to flip that lot to a third party. Now, if you flip that lot to a third party with seller financing, no problem at all. But if you flip that lot to somebody for cash, now we need to make sure that it has at least gone through the evaluations department. If it's not, that can hold up a cash transaction. Now, why? Because remember, in Belize, the seller is responsible for providing a free and clear title that is transferable. Well, if your current title is stuck in evaluations department, it's not transferable, right? So that's going to cause a little bit of a delay. Now, we've never seen this before. I've been doing this for 15 years, and we've never seen it before where a person purchased a property and then wanted to sell, but we find out that the title is held up in evaluations. But due to the incredible volume of closings that Belize has had over the past, say, 12 to 18 months, we are finding now a number of our clients who want to resell or put their properties back on the market are finding out that their title is still stuck in evaluations. Some of these have been in there for 5 months, 6 months, up to 9 months. And in fact, one recent email we received from an attorney said that new buyers who buy a property today can expect not to receive their title up to 12 months from now. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't own the property. They are the full legal owners of the property. It's just that this process to get a new title issued takes a while to go through all the different departments in lands. All right, so why am I telling you all this? I'm telling you all this because over the past 7 to 10 days, we've had at least 5 contracts written where buyers want to buy properties that are on the market, that are for sale, but we found out that the seller, although they are the full legal owner of the property, the seller has their title stuck in the evaluations department. And we have no control. Myself, the seller, Alberto, we have no control over how quickly the evaluations department processes some of these evaluations. And so what we're telling people from now on, and this is moving forward, I'm letting all my buyers and sellers know this, that if you want to buy a property and it is currently stuck in evaluations department, we have some legal ways that we can word the contract to work around this. First of all, we can just say we're making the contract or the closing subject to the seller having their title at least past the evaluations department stage. Because after that, then they have full legal right to sell the property because basically they have title. So we're telling them that we can take the contract, alter a little bit, put some verbiage in there so we can still have these deals go through. But it just means that as the seller, you might have to wait longer for your closing. So right now, closings are taking around 60 days. If you have this particular issue attached to your deal, could take 90 days, could take 120, could take up to 6 months, depending on when you purchase the property. The other thing we could do to make this deal work is if the buyer is willing to buy the property on a seller financing deal. So, for example, instead of a cash deal, we write the property due to some sort of short term seller financing, could be 12 months, 24 months, something like that. that's another way we can handle these deals. So don't want to overcomplicate this video at all. Just want to send out an update to all of my clients, especially my sellers. So sellers, if you're coming to me and saying, Dennis, I bought this property some time ago. I want to go ahead and sell it. No problem at all. Be happy to take a look at it. But what I am going to ask is that you do a check either with Lands or through your attorney who closed the deal through Alberto. Let's just see where it is in the process because we can sell it, but how we draft that purchase agreement will determine whether or not your current purchase or your previous purchase has made it through the evaluations department. All make sense? Clear? All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you watching today. If you want to know any more information about this topic or anything else that you're experiencing in Belize, let me know. Be happy to work with you. And I just want to put this out there because sometimes, and this is including myself, we get frustrated if we just don't know what's going on, right? If nobody told us this information. So right now, this is going to clarify a lot of people's questions that they've been having, especially if you're in this current situation. Again, just to reiterate, it's not a problem for seller or buyer. We're still going to make the deal work. We just might have to add a clause to the agreement for sale. That's all it is. And it just means that the closing itself, the dispersion of funds, might take a little bit longer. But absolutely, we'll make these deals work. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.